A poor single dad let a strange girl stay for one night, not knowing she was a rich man's daughter and would fall in love with him. "You shouldn't be here alone," Jack said, his voice quiet but strong as heavy rain hit his shoulders. "This isn't a safe place for anyone to stand at 2 o'clock in the morning." The girl turned quickly, surprised. Her hair was wet, stuck to her face, and her eyes, wide with fear, looked around before stopping on him. "I don't need you feeling sorry for me," she snapped, hugging herself tighter. Jack moved closer, but not too close. He was still in his city cleaning uniform, the bright stripes softly shining under the streetlight. "I'm not feeling sorry for you," he said. "I'm offering a warm place, with water and no knives in the hands of strangers." The girl hesitated. Her lips trembled, not just from the cold. He saw her fingers shake, the way she looked towards the dark end of the block as if expecting someone or afraid someone might come back. "What happened?" he asked, his voice softer now. She looked down. I got robbed. My phone is dead. My bag is gone." Jack let the quiet hang for a moment. Then he breathed out. "Do you want to call someone?" She shook her head. "I don't want to talk to anyone. I just need a safe place until morning." Jack thought about it. His first thought was to walk away. He had a 6-year-old daughter at home and couldn't take chances. But something about how she stood, shaking with both pride and fear, made him stop thinking and start acting. "All right," he said, fixing the strap on his work bag. "I live 2 blocks from here. It's not much, but it's warm. You can stay on the couch for the night." She looked like she might argue again, but then her knees bent slightly. "Okay," she said, barely loud enough to hear. They walked quietly. Jack kept a small distance, respectful but watching. When they got to his small duplex house, he carefully unlocked the door and motioned for her to come inside. The house was dimly lit, clean but clearly lived in, with children's books on a shelf and a small pink backpack near the door. "Take your shoes off there," he said, pointing to a mat. "The couch is yours for the night. There's an extra blanket in the closet." She nodded without a word, wiping rain from her cheeks with her sleeve. Jack walked to the back of the house into a small room full of boxes. He put his wallet and keys in a locked drawer, not because he suspected her, but from a habit learned from needing to survive. Then he came back with a blanket, a clean towel, and a dry sweatshirt. "The bathroom's to the right," he said, giving them to her. "You can shower if you want. The water takes a minute to get warm." She took the items with both hands, her eyes quickly looking at his face, confused by his calm way. "Why are you doing this?" she asked finally. Jack rubbed the back of his neck. "Because you looked like you needed help, and I'd hoped someone would do the same for my daughter if she ever gets into trouble." The girl seemed to flinch at the word daughter, but said nothing. While she was in the bathroom, Jack quickly wrote a note and placed it beside a hot cup of water heated in the microwave. Then, as quietly as he could, he went down the hallway into the bedroom he shared with his little girl. Emma came out of the bathroom 20 minutes later, wearing the big sweatshirt. The house was quiet. On the coffee table next to the sofa sat a folded blanket, the mug of warm water, and the note. It said, "If you need to call anyone, the house phone is on the wall. Don't hesitate to open the closet for more blankets. Please keep the door closed. My daughter is a light sleeper." She stared at the note for a long time, her fingers gently touching the edge of the cup. The warmth went from the ceramic into her skin, and for the first time all night, she felt something she hadn't felt in days. Safe. She curled onto the couch, pulled the blanket over her, and listened to the rain get softer outside. The man who had taken her in hadn't asked for her name or given his. He hadn't made her feel small or like she owed him or judged. She didn't know who he was, but for now, that didn't matter. She would sleep, and tomorrow she would figure out what to do next. Emma woke to the sound of laughing, high-pitched and clearly a child's. For a moment, she felt lost, the soft blanket around her, the smell of something warm from the kitchen, the quiet sound of cartoons playing low in the background. It was very different from the messy night before. She sat up slowly and blinked in the soft morning light. Across the small living room, a little girl sat with her legs crossed on the carpet, building a tower from plastic blocks. Her curly hair bounced as she giggled to herself, seeming unaware Emma had woken up. "Good morning," Emma said gently, her voice rough. The child looked up, her face bright with curiosity. "Hi, you're the princess that slept on our couch," she said happily. Emma blinked. "Excuse me?" "My name is Lily," the girl said proudly. "Daddy said a nice lady stayed over because she was cold and rained on. That's you." Emma chuckled, her first real smile in days. "I guess that's me. Nice to meet you, Lily." A voice called from the kitchen. "Lily, breakfast duty! Come help me burn the toast!" Lily giggled again and ran towards the kitchen. Emma stood, stretched, and followed slowly, her body still stiff from sleeping in odd positions. She stepped into the small kitchen to find Jack cracking eggs into a bowl with one hand, his other stirring something in a pan. "You cook?" she asked, unsure if her voice showed admiration or surprise. Jack glanced over. "Only if Lily is brave enough to eat it." "You want to help?" Emma hesitated. "I can try, though I should warn you I'm not very good at cooking or housework." He passed her a whisk and smiled. "Neither am I. That's why we burn a lot of toast in this house." She laughed, the sound surprising even herself. Together they moved around the small kitchen. Lily climbed onto a stool to help butter slices of bread while Emma tried to flip scrambled eggs. Of course, she messed up. The spatula slipped from her hand and the bowl tipped sideways, splattering eggs across the counter and onto the floor. Emma gasped. "Oh no." She reached for a towel, but Lily got to it first. The little girl handed her a paper towel with a grin. "It's okay. Daddy spills stuff too, all the time." Emma stared at her for a moment, then burst into genuine laughter. Jack said nothing, just smiled as he quietly scooped the rest of the eggs back into the pan and kept cooking. When they finally sat down for breakfast, Emma looked nervously at the plate in front of Jack. She had tried her best, but the eggs were overcooked, the toast a little burnt, and the bacon oddly chewy. Still, Jack ate every bite. "This is great," he said with a straight face. "You don't have to lie," Emma replied, raising an eyebrow. "I'm not lying," Jack said. "It's good enough to eat. That counts." Lily poked at hers, chewing carefully. Emma tried not to watch. After the meal, Jack stood and collected the dishes. "You two relax. I'll take care of this." Emma offered to help, but he waved her off. As she and Lily moved to the living room, she glanced back and saw him secretly getting another plate from the oven, fresh scrambled eggs and toast. He had cooked something else for Lily just in case. She said nothing. Later that morning, while Emma helped Lily build a Lego house, the little girl leaned in and whispered, "The eggs Daddy made after were better, but it's okay." "He still ate yours." Emma's eyebrows rose. "He made more?" Lily nodded. "But he told me not to tell." "Oops." Emma stood up, walked to the kitchen, and leaned against the doorframe. Jack looked up, caught in the middle of eating his second plate of eggs. She crossed her arms. "So, I burned breakfast." He smiled shyly. "You cooked breakfast. That's what matters." "Why not just tell me?" Jack shrugged. "Because the first time doing something is always messy. You just need someone to eat it anyway." Emma looked at him for a long moment, and something inside her changed. He was unlike anyone she had ever met. Honest, truly kind, and patient in a way that made her feel at ease. "You said something last night about hoping someone would help your daughter if she ever needed it," she said softly. "You're a good father, Jack." He said nothing, just smiled slightly and went back to his eggs. Later, while washing the dishes, Jack spoke casually. "There's a laundry shop down the block. The owner's a friend. I could ask if they need help if you're staying in the city a while." Emma hesitated. "Maybe. I need to earn some money while waiting for papers. I lost everything. Like a job, an ID, stuff like that," she replied. "I'm a student, or I was, from another state. It's complicated." Jack didn't ask more questions. He just nodded. "Let me know if you want to check out the laundry shop. I'll walk you over." Emma looked at him again. This man had no idea who she truly was, and he didn't care. He was helping her, not because he had to, but because it was simply who he was. and that somehow made her feel more understood than anything money had ever bought. The bell above the laundry shop door jingled as Emma stepped inside. The smell of soap, mixed with something sour and metallic, hit her all at once. Machines clanked together, baskets of clothes were overflowing, and the air was warm, stuffy even. A woman behind the counter barely looked up. "You Jack's friend?" she asked. Emma nodded. The woman handed her an apron. "Your work time starts now." And just like that, she had a job. By noon, Emma's back was sore. Her hands were red from soap and fabric softener, and 2 customers had already snapped at her. One said she shrank his sweater. Another handed her 3 bags of damp clothes and, "I expect this by 5, before walking out. She looked at the clock. Only 3 hours in. By late afternoon, she stood in the alley behind the laundry shop, slumped against the wall, her apron stained and her cheeks red. Her phone, still dead, sat uselessly in her coat pocket. She stared at the dumpster across from her and thought about walking away, back to the shelter, back to anything but this. When she returned to Jack's house that evening, she said nothing, just dropped her bag, sat on the edge of the couch, and pulled off her shoes, wincing at the blisters on her heels. Jack noticed, but he didn't ask. The next morning, Emma woke up to find a pair of clean white sneakers by the door. No tag, no note, but clearly not hers. She picked one up, lightweight, strong, exactly her size. Inside one shoe, a small piece of paper was folded neatly. It said, "I thought your feet deserved better. If you're walking away, at least don't walk in pain." She stood there for a long time holding the shoes, and then she put them on. When Jack returned from his night shift, she was in the kitchen, already halfway through making toast. "You didn't leave," he said. "I almost did," she replied. "But your guilt trip shoes worked." Jack smirked. "They weren't meant to make you feel guilty. No, they were meant to say you have the choice. That's all." Later that week, she complained again after folding a seemingly endless pile of towels. "I've never been this tired," she mumbled, rubbing her neck. "And I used to think yoga was hard." Jack looked up from the laundry bag he was sorting. "You're earning something real now." She gave him a tired look. "You mean back pain?" "I mean the freedom of living by your own hard work. Even if your hands get dirty, it's yours. No one can take that from you." Emma didn't answer right away, but those words stayed with her. That Friday, the laundry shop got a large order for a local hotel. They had to wash, dry, and fold over 100 sheets and uniforms by morning. Emma stayed behind to help Jack finish the job. They worked past midnight, the bright lights humming above them. Jack folded in silence, quick and skilled. Emma struggled to keep up, often unfolding and refolding the same shirt 3 times before getting it right. Around 2:00 a.m., they finally loaded the clean clothes into the back of Jack's old pickup truck. "I can't feel my fingers," Emma groaned as she climbed into the passenger seat. "You'll miss them when they're gone," Jack replied dryly, starting the engine. They drove through the quiet streets, dropping off bundles at a few houses. It was peaceful in a strange way, almost comforting. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was easy. At one stop, Jack handed Emma a small laundry bag. "Go leave this at the door, house number 15, the one with the porch light." Emma nodded and stepped out. She placed the bag on the step and turned back, but just then the porch light turned off and a large dog burst from behind the gate, barking and running toward her. Emma screamed and stumbled backward, her ankle twisting on the curb. She hit the ground hard, her palms scraping against the concrete. The truck door slammed. Jack was already running toward her. He reached her just as the dog skidded to a stop, barking wildly. Jack stood between them, arms out, and shouted, "Get back!" The dog, surprised, went back toward the yard. Jack picked Emma up before she could argue. "I told you to wait in the truck," he snapped as he carried her back. "I thought I could handle a bag of laundry," she mumbled, clutching her throbbing wrist. He set her down gently inside the truck and slammed the door behind her. "Damn it, Emma," he said, rubbing a hand down his face. "I said to stay put. It's just a scrape." "I don't care about the scrape," he cut in, his voice rough. I care that you could have been seriously hurt. What were you thinking?" She had never seen him like this. Angry, truly angry. But underneath it, there was something else. Fear. She looked at him for a moment, and then her eyes filled with tears, not from the pain in her ankle, but from the sudden huge wave of emotion. "No one's ever yelled at me because they were scared for me," she whispered. Jack sat back, the tension in his shoulders relaxing. "Well," he said quietly, "you're in the wrong house now." Emma wiped at her cheeks and laughed, a wet, broken sound. And for the first time, it didn't feel like a house anymore. It felt like something else, something like home. Emma was folding towels behind the counter when the necklace slipped out. It was a thin gold chain, delicate and fancy, with a single blue stone that caught the light like a drop of blue fire. She had hidden it inside a pocket of her duffel bag, wrapped in an old sock, hoping never to see it again, but somehow it had made its way into the laundry by mistake. She froze the moment she saw it lying on top of the pile of white clothes. Before she could reach for it, Jack walked past, stopped, and looked down. His eyes landed on the necklace. For a moment he said nothing. Then slowly he looked up at her. She held her breath. "That," he said quietly, "isn't something a broke student carries around." Emma hesitated, then reached down and quickly grabbed the necklace, tucking it into her back pocket. "I forgot it was in there," she mumbled. "Who is it?" Jack asked, his voice low. Emma didn't answer. Jack stepped back, his face getting tight. "Who are you, really?" Emma swallowed hard. The silence was louder than any shout. "I'm someone who walked away from a world where everything has a price except love," she said finally. "That's all you need to know." He stared at her for a long moment. "You lied to me." "I didn't lie. I left things out." Jack's voice dropped. "That's the same thing." Emma's lips trembled, but she turned away, her hands shaking. "Do you know what it's like to be watched every moment of your life? To be told who to love, where to go, what to become?" "No," Jack said, "but I know what it's like to be honest with someone who isn't." They stood there in silence, the hum of machines the only sound between them. Emma felt tears coming but refused to let them fall. Before either could speak again, the door swung open. A man in a leather jacket and baseball cap walked in, holding up a smartphone, his eyes fixed on Emma. "There she is," he mumbled, raising his camera. Emma's breath caught in her throat. The man snapped a photo. "You've been missing for 5 days, sweetheart. Your daddy's offering 6 figures to know where you're hiding." Jack stepped forward. "Hey, get out of here!" "Relax, man. I'm just doing my job," the man said, taking another picture. Emma backed away, panic growing in her chest. Jack moved quickly. He grabbed Emma by the arm and pulled her toward the back exit. "Go now!" They burst out the back door, Emma breathing heavily, her mind racing. Jack didn't stop running until they reached his truck. "What about Lily?" Emma gasped. "She's at school. I'll get her." Within the hour, Lily was in Jack's arms, confused and sleepy. Jack handed her a juice box and strapped her into the back seat of the truck. Emma watched in stunned silence as he drove them not home, but to the house next door, to his neighbor, Mrs. Ramirez. "She'll keep her safe," Jack said. "You trust her?" "With my life," Jack said, his voice firm. Mrs. Ramirez opened the door before he could knock, nodding silently. "Come on in. I'll keep the little one." Jack leaned down and kissed Lily's forehead. "You'll stay with Grandma Ramirez for a little while, okay? Just like a sleepover." Lily nodded. "Okay, Daddy." Jack straightened, breathed out deeply, and turned to Emma. "Let's go." They drove out of the neighborhood, not speaking until they were on the edge of town. Emma stared at him in the silence, guilt and thanks fighting in her chest. He kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting lightly on his leg, fingers bending. Emma realized then that his shirt sleeve was torn. "Your arm," she said suddenly. "What happened?" He glanced down at the bruise forming along his upper arm. "The guy pushed me when I tried to block his camera." "Why didn't you say anything?" Jack shrugged. "As long as you and Lily are safe. I can deal with a bruise." Emma looked at him, her eyes filling again. In that moment, she realized something. Jack didn't protect her because of who she might be. He did it because of who he was. They returned to the house just after sunset. Jack parked a block away to be careful, looking for cars that didn't belong. Emma sat beside him, silent, her nerves tight. The porch light was off. Something was wrong. Jack motioned for her to stay in the truck, but Emma had already opened the door. "It's okay," she said. "If someone's come, I need to face it." They walked together toward the house, and then they saw it. A black, fancy car idled in front of the driveway, smooth and shining beneath the street lamp. Two men in dark suits stood by the porch. The front door was open. Jack sped up, his gut feeling kicking in. He stepped in front of Emma to protect her just as a third man came out from inside. He was older, tall, with silver hair neatly combed back and a strong presence that filled the space like dark clouds. "Emma," he said coldly, "get in the car." Emma froze. Jack didn't. "Are you her father?" he asked, his voice steady. "I am Winston Harrington," the man said, his eyes sharp. "You're the man who's been hiding my daughter." "I'm the man who gave her a couch when she had nowhere else to go," Jack replied. Winston took a slow step forward, looking at the house with disgust. This place, this life, it's beneath her. You can't possibly think she belongs here." "She made that decision," Jack said. "Not me. You can't keep her here." "I'm not keeping anyone," Jack said, his voice harder now. "But I'm not handing her over like she's a briefcase either." Winston's eyes narrowed. "You don't know who she is." "I don't care who she is," Jack shot back. "I know what kind of person she is, and I know she's safe here." Emma stepped between them, her voice steady, though her hands shook. "Dad, stop." "You've made your point," Winston said, gesturing to his men. "Now come home." "This is home," she whispered. "No," he said firmly. "This is where you ran to, not where you belong." Jack turned to Emma. "You don't have to go." But she was already looking at the car. Her eyes were wet. "I think I do." "No one's forcing you," Jack said. "Yes, they are," she replied, her voice breaking. "Just not with words." He understood. The pressure wasn't physical. It was the heavy weight of a life she'd tried to escape, crashing down again. She stepped back from him slowly, like she was afraid of what would happen if she moved too quickly. He didn't follow. She turned toward the car. One of the bodyguards opened the door. Winston said nothing. His job was done. Emma paused at the edge of the sidewalk, her back still to Jack. "I'm sorry," she said softly, not turning around. He didn't respond. He couldn't. The door closed behind her, the sound like a final book chapter being shut. Jack stood on the porch as the car drove away, tail lights fading into the night. His hands were clenched at his sides, his jaw tight. Inside, the house was quiet, empty in a way it hadn't felt in weeks. He didn't say a word. He just closed the door and turned off the porch light. The days that followed were quieter, too quiet. Jack went through his routines. He clocked into his night shifts, swept city blocks, and came home just before sunrise. But something in him felt dull. His eyes no longer lit up when Lily greeted him in the morning. His hands moved without feeling as he packed her lunch, brushed her hair, and walked her to the bus. He hadn't told her why Emma was gone, just that sometimes people had to leave, and that it wasn't because they didn't care. Lily didn't ask many questions, but she stopped humming when she played, and she began to sleep with the lights on. On the fourth day, she started coughing. At first, Jack thought it was a cold. She always caught something when the seasons changed, but then came the fever, then the chills, then the shaking that wouldn't stop, even under 3 blankets. By midnight, she was burning up. Jack carried her in his arms to the truck, his keys shaking in his hands. At the hospital, the bright lights made everything seem harder, too white, too bright. A nurse took Lily into the first treatment area while Jack walked back and forth behind the front desk, waiting for someone to call his name. Finally, a woman came over. "We need a $6,000 payment to admit her." Jack pulled out his wallet, knowing it was useless. He had just over $100 to his name. Can I pay part now? How? He asked. I'll cover the rest in a few days. The woman hesitated. Hospital rules are... Please, Jack said, his voice cracking. She's 6 years old. He was still arguing when a voice cut through the hallway behind him. I've got it. He turned. Emma stood there, her coat over her arm, her hair damp from the rain outside. She walked past him without waiting for a reaction and handed the receptionist her card. Put everything under my name, she said. Room fees, medicine, tests, all of it. The nurse typed quickly. Do you have a connection with the patient? Emma looked at Jack, then said, Yes, I do. Jack stood frozen as they led Lily to a room. An hour later, after the doctors had said it was a virus, treatable but needing to be watched, Jack sat beside his daughter's bed, his elbows on his knees, head in his hands. Emma came in quietly. He didn't look up right away. When he did, his voice was low. You didn't have to do that. She sat in the chair next to him. I know. He breathed out shakily. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have been pulled into this. Emma looked at Lily, sleeping with a slight frown on her fevered face. You didn't pull me in, Jack. I came back. He nodded slowly. Then his voice dropped again, thick with something he wouldn't let out. I know you don't owe me anything, he said, but thank you for coming back. Emma leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling for a moment. You told me once that everyone deserves to walk without pain, she said. That goes for hearts too. They sat in silence, the only sound the beeping of Lily's monitor and the soft whirring of machines. For the first time in days, Jack allowed himself to breathe. Not just because Lily was safe, but because Emma had come back. Emma stood in the fancy hallway of her father's penthouse, her shoes silent on the shiny floor. The windows stretched from ceiling to floor, showing a sparkling city view. But none of it affected her. She wasn't here for the view. Winston Harrington sat at the head of a long glass table, reading the money section of the paper. He didn't look up when she entered. I figured you'd be back once things calmed down, he said coolly. I didn't come back, Emma replied. I came to talk. Winston folded the paper with extra calm. You're denying reality, Emma. Running around playing house with a man who works 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. Emma crossed her arms. That man saved me. From what? He scoffed. A little discomfort? You had everything. A future, safety, family name, and you threw it away for what? Emma stepped closer. I didn't throw it away. I walked away. There's a difference. Winston rose from his chair. You gave up everything to hide in a tiny place with a cleaner. Emma's voice didn't shake. He's not a cleaner. He's a father. A man who shows up every day for his daughter without fail. A man who taught me more about being strong in 3 weeks than you did in 30 years. Winston narrowed his eyes. You're going to choose him over this? Over me? She looked him in the eye. I'm choosing my life, my voice, and yes, the man who lives by his hands and his heart. His lips tightened. You love him? I do. He breathed out sharply, as though the word itself had hurt him. He can't give you anything. Emma smiled softly. He gives me everything that matters. Winston walked towards the window. This isn't some fairy tale, Emma. Real life is hard. You'll get tired of it. The struggle, the giving up, love doesn't keep the heat on. Emma followed him with her eyes, steady. It doesn't, but it keeps people warm. He turned sharply, finally meeting her gaze with something vulnerable in his eyes. You think he can protect you, provide for you? He already has, she said. Not with money, with respect, with truth. There was silence for a long time. Then Winston walked to the bar and poured himself a drink. I never meant to be the bad guy, he mumbled. I know, Emma said. You just forgot how to be a person. He stared down into his glass, the tension in his shoulders weakening. He has something I don't. Emma tilted her head. You mean a daughter who loves him for who he is? He looked up sharply. She didn't flinch. I'm going back, she said simply. To him, to the life I chose. And this time, I'm not running. I'm walking toward it. Winston didn't stop her. He didn't say sorry either. But as she reached the door, his voice stopped her. Tell him, he hesitated. Tell him he's lucky. She turned back. No, she said gently. I'm the lucky one. And then she walked out into the rain, into the noise, into her real life. She didn't look back. The knock came just after sunrise. Jack was in the kitchen, making pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, Lily's favorite. He wiped his hands on a towel, expecting the mailman or maybe Mrs. Ramirez dropping off some homemade food. He opened the door and froze. Emma stood there, her hair pulled into a messy bun, her jacket damp with morning dew. In her hands, she held a small brown paper bag. For Lily, she said softly. Blueberry muffins, the real kind. No fake stuff. Jack didn't say anything. I'm not here to stay the night, she added quickly, her voice steady. I'm here to stay, if you'll have me. He searched her face for doubt, but found none. We're not rich, he said, his voice rough. Emma stepped closer. I've had everything, Jack. Money, travel, fancy things. But I never had a kitchen where someone made dinosaur pancakes. I never had a home that felt like it loved me back. Jack stared at her, the weight of every sleepless night, every unsaid word, every hidden feeling threatening to burst free. This house is small. It's enough, she said. It's full of love. His eyes softened. We don't have much. I had everything, she repeated, her voice gentler now. I just didn't have a family.